Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm 𝗤𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗃, licensed agent with Second City Real Estate and investor myself. And with me, as always, my partner, Mark Ainley, the founder and partner of 𝗤𝘃𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃. Mark, you're digging our new intro there. Where we get out what we actually do because people have been asking.
I like it. Yeah. For those of you listening, people have actually not even sure 100% what we do. So we're going to start announcing it a little more. So
yeah, I gotten a few times like, oh, you work at GC. And I'm like, no, I actually work at Drexel. I actually do a lot of different things. And so we got to start clarifying. We kind of take for granted that we get new listeners every week. And then they're like, oh, they haven't been with us for the past 135 shows or whatever.
I got that beat. Somebody asked me, I think it was a few weeks ago, asked me if you were my brother. Like, oh man, it's cool. You do a podcast. That's your brother, right? Like, no, like we have different last names.
I like that you're just insulted.
No, it's a shock. No, I mean, I'll be brothers with you any day, Tom.
All right. Thanks, man. I do one more on that is I went to, I think it was a Chicago multifamily Christmas party. They like Nikki and RJ put on. And because you didn't go, I think you guys had a case of COVID in the house or whatever.
Yeah.
And every single person walked up to me and goes, oh, where's Mark? Just assuming that we just hang out 24/7.
I know. It's weird that as much as everyone only knows us together, we actually probably hardly ever hang out. I think
we do not like each other.
We went to dinner 3 weeks ago. And I think that was the first time you and me have ever been to dinner. Like, right? Didn't we?
First, like first non-big group. I think.
Yeah. Look at that, man. Look at that. And I think we're going to dinner this week too. So I'm looking forward to it.
There we go.
So you have been, back in the fall, you talked about on here, you're buying a bunch of flips and bigger rehabs to be able to hit the market this spring. So we're here at spring. How did things time out for you with all that?
Things have timed out well. All those fall purchases have been and some of them were even summer. Like some of these are big rehabs, 400 or 500K type of things. They're all going to be hitting the market here in spring. It's going to be a really nice spring for us. The world hasn't shut off yet, but by the time we're recording this, that could change by the time it airs. So it's going to be great. It's going to be very funny though. These things are going to sell. And it's like, the pendulum's going to swing 180 the other way, right? From being like, hey, all our money, all our people, everything's tied up to, man, we need a pipeline. So even right now, like we're scrounging. Like, I showed up, 1 minute before this recording because Chris and I just walked a building. So like we're in pure acquisitions mode, whereas in January is more pure operations mode. Make sure we get everything to where it needs to be. But yeah, we'll have 4 rather big ones hitting the market in spring. I think we're going to do the open house in one of them. I think steal an idea. I think Jonathan Clem's done that. I think 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵, I'm going to steal that idea. Show a little open house, kind of a show off to everyone and answer any questions.
Man, maybe we could get what's the name we could record a live episode there or do some Facebook.
Yeah,
live
get 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 over here. Let's record this. We'll do a live episode. Man, we're coming up with everything on the spot.
Facebook Live there. That'd be cool.
So, well, cool. What do we got for the housing provider tip of the week?
Well, housing provider tip of the week. I want to, there's a lot of investors right now that are taking advantage of the Section 8 mobility area. For those who don't know, that is areas of the city that Section 8 will go above and beyond what the typical voucher might pay in other parts of the city. So in some of those areas, the mobility payment that CHA will pay for a tenant actually exceeds what market rent is. So what I want to make sure everyone is warned of is you might be able to buy a single family home in, say, West Pullman or in right over there, the edge of Beverly. But if you are running your numbers at this higher than market rental rate, and that changes. For me, I had a property one time, I bought a $1,500 rent, and the mobility problem went away in that particular area, and I ended up only getting $1,200. Now I bought it very dirt cheap. I think we had $40,000 all into it. But if I was $120,000 into it, like a lot of these single family home investors are right now, that would have been the difference between making money and actually bringing money to each month. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're running your numbers. And also it's true probably just with traditional Section 8 in the south suburbs. So Country Club Hills, Hazel Crest, all those areas, Section 8 actually probably pays, 3 to 7% higher than a lot of times what you could get for market rent. So make sure you're running on those market rent numbers just in case that changes.
Good advice. I dig it. Yeah. The other thing too is a lot of times we talk about, you're close along the same lines. We're close to this employer. We're close to this. And it's like, all right, if that ever goes away, what is the contingency plan? And can you live with that? Right? Like if you're going to hold something for 20 years, 30 years, whatever it may be, like it can't just be the new hot thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Cool. All right. I think we have our youngest guest on today. this might be. I don't know. We'll have to do some fact checking. But today's guest, very impressive story here. So originally from Armenia, he moved here with his family when he was 9 years old, and after seeing all the wonderful opportunities in this country, decided he wanted to be in business for himself, wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he got his broker's license at the age of 21, and basically built his business through social media, creating content, and just hustling and networking. He's got a niche guide for new investors, just a ton of great stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about gaining a following, cultivating that following, and just hustling overall. So without further ado, we have an investor-friendly agent, Aram Ghazaryan. And I don't think I butchered it too bad. How was it?
No, I think you did a great job, man. Honestly, some of the best work I've heard.
All right, awesome. And that was the first take, everyone who's listening. So.
It was, I can vouch to it. Thank you so much, man. I'm super excited to be here and honored to share the podcast stage with you guys here.
Awesome. So Aram, at 21, you jump in and say, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Let's start there. Like, why real estate? Was it just an easy barrier to entry? And talk about just, all right, I'm here, I'm an agent. What happened next? So just talk us through that story and we'll get going.
So I chose real estate, man, because I was studying a lot of rich people. And I was like, everyone seems to be investing in real estate, but they make a lot of their money through some type of a business. And then they invested in real estate. Somehow, somewhere, everyone is involved. And my final goal in life was I want to be wealthy because I don't come from money. And if you know anything about Armenia, it's kind of poor, right? So I was like, you know what? If this is what the rich people are doing, they're in investing. Okay, I'm going to do that. But first, I need to start a business so I can make money so that I can invest it the right way, right? So I had my end goal in mind. And unfortunately, at the time I was 18, 19, I had almost no money. And I was going to school and I'm like, you know what? As my third major shift to being in business, that was my major. And I looked at the expenses of getting my bachelor's degree, which was like $40,000. And I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way for me to spend this money. I don't want to just throw it on a college degree and lose 2 years, but I can invest it in a business instead. So then I did some research and I discovered the industry of like the brokerage industry on the real estate side. I was like, it only costs $2,000 to start. Sign me up. And I could come up with $2,000. So I don't care how broke you are, but I had credit cards, good credit at the time, fortunately. So I took the test, I got the exam. And as soon as I turned 21, I was able to get my license. And then it was off to the races from there. My plan, simple plan as a young man was I would learn the industry as a brokerage, make my money that way. And then when I'm ready, switch to investing. And at that point, I think I'll have a bigger edge over like the new investor because I know the industry a little bit better from the back end.
A mentor of mine said that you will get rich being a real estate broker and you'll get wealthy being a real estate investor.
That is such a beautiful, oh yes. I can't agree with that more, man. Yes, 100%.
Well, so other good news out there for anyone younger listening, the license age is now changed to 18 years old this year. So
they changed it literally a couple years after I got my license. I was so upset because I had to wait 2 years. I'm like, guys, I could have been 7 years experience by now, but what can you do?
Yes. Let me ask the question here because I think a lot of, I'm just going to be very blunt here. A lot of Americans lose focus of how much opportunity there's here. Mm-hmm. Look at it, give us kind of that feedback. Like I try to tell I didn't grow up in money and I call myself scrappy growing up, similar mindset of that. But like my kids don't understand what that means or what type of opportunity. Kind of give us what that looks like coming from your vantage point, coming into this country as a young boy and seeing everything versus what you were maybe raised in or what your parents told you about growing up.
So in my country, if you work really hard and you became somebody, you could never hold on to it because someday somebody would come knock on your door and take everything you have, right? Where in America, if you work hard, number one, there is a guarantee that you will become something, right? If you just dedicate yourself, there is a lot more industry, a lot more opportunities, just a lot more money all over the place. And it's like secure, like you don't have to worry about losing it or, the government coming and taking it away from you and things like that, because it was like a corrupt nation, right? So here you can really rely on the systems in place. And it's just, for me, it's mind blowing, man. I'm like, oh my God, I can just sell a few houses and make a good living. I can, you could sell insurance, you could sell cars, or you could just literally do anything. Like I was an Uber driver when I started the business because I didn't have any money. And even that makes more money than any one of my relatives back in the home country, right? So the abundance is everywhere. And it's just, if people know how hard it was anywhere else, they'd really appreciate how easy we have it here.
Yeah. along those lines, give me your first thoughts on Chicago.
So I loved it. I thought I was in Chicago for the first 5-10 years of being here, but then I realized I was in the suburbs. So it wasn't until I got a driver, like I got a license in a car. I'm like, wait a minute. Chicago is 45 minutes away. I'm in the suburbs. It was great. So I actually landed in DC first, and we then had a connecting flight to Chicago. So when I got here, I got home and I woke, and then I just fell asleep, right? When I woke up, I was like, okay, so this is America, huh? And it just, I'm going to share my banana story. I think you'll find it entertaining. So in Armenia, you only eat a banana because they're expensive. You only eat a banana maybe once a month. Like if you got a good grade on your test, like my mom would buy me one banana, okay? Not a batch, one banana a month. I wake up in the morning, first night in America, I open up my pantry, bowl of bananas. I lose my mind. I'm like 9 years old and I can have all the bananas I want. Something as simple as that shows the abundance we have versus where I came from. You know what I'm saying?
It's awesome.
So yeah, it was great, man. I loved it. It was actually a sunny day too, which I'm like, damn, the sun is nice over here.
What suburb? Where'd you grow up? Or what area, part of Chicago?
I moved to Schaumburg and I've been there until last year. I bought my first condo in Elk Grove. So I'm still in that same region.
All right. For the listeners who care, that's where our wife is from. I got married in Elk Grove.
Oh, really?
I did. Yeah.
Very nice.
We're tying it all together here.
I bought my first house in Schaumburg, so we'll bring it back.
Everyone's got a Woodfield story. This is great, guys.
Oh, heck
all right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk about, we get the license and how do we get that first deal, right? You had to find a brokerage, but then you don't have a ton of networking or relationships here. How did you get that first deal? Then the next one, like, how did you get to give us like the first 6 months, 9 months of being a broker? What did you do?
Perfect. So I thought I was going to make it big within 2 months, which was completely wrong. I was a lot worse than I thought I was. I spent the first 6 months cold calling because I just figured I'm too young. No, I don't really know anyone looking to buy. And I don't think someone that knows me is going to work with me, right? So I have to find a complete stranger. Oftentimes it is what it is. So I started cold calling for sale by owners and expired listings. And it was 4 months in that I got my very first listing. It was a $700,000 house in Arlington Heights on a busy road. And it was on the market for 5 years. When I called the guy, he yelled at me for like 15 minutes, cussing out everybody. But I was like, man, you seem like you really want to sell. And I think I can help. Long story short, I was able to sell that house in like 30 days. And then after that, I helped him buy. And then most of my business, the first couple of years just came from cold calling and just cold call, like old school sales. I didn't discover social media until that third year of being a real estate agent. And that's when things started to develop a little bit, like it started to grow exponentially, where I'm kind of doubling year after year. I started pretty low. So, it's not a brag to say I doubled, but that's pretty much it. Cold calling first, then I went towards the marketing year 3.
Talk to us about cold calling, right? Like that's how I grew up out of college. That was my, kind of boiler room type job. And some very good qualities come out of that. Some very good lessons in dealing with adversity, but talk through some of our folks who are afraid to pick up the phone. What did you learn going through that experience?
First of all, more people are nice than they're mean. My instinct to always say, I had to get a lot of rejection, but a lot of people are generally nice. I would say that it took me only 4 months to get business because I had no skill. And I was fortunate enough where I kind of signed up for some coaching programs that taught me like the importance of role playing and just practicing your conversations. And that helped me out a ton. And just in regards to the cold calling aspect of it, man, my heart would be on at least 150 beats a minute every morning, especially on Mondays, because I only called Monday through Friday, 3 hours a day, right? So Monday was the worst. But after that very first call, it got very, very easy for me. And it was just kind of like going with the flow. But overall, I'm very grateful I did because it forced me to learn sales, which I then applied to everything I do on the marketing side, which kind of helps me grow a little bit better because I kind of know how to stick to a point, or even when I'm making my videos, how to make it so people are still engaged and they're not bored out of their mind,
I was speaking of sales, I was listening to a podcast and there's a study out about people that worked selling Cutco knives I don't know if you guys ever heard that. You did? Me too. So they said,
I almost fell for it, guys. I almost fell for it, but I didn't.
but they say if you, the study, I might butcher this, but if there's a correlation that if you sold Cutco knives for more than X amount of months, that your chance of being uber successful in life is like crazy high, like 80% or something like that. So
I believe it.
To be fair, the study was done by Cutco.
Question I have is, whoever needs to cut a penny? Okay. That's all I want to know. Because that's what was demonstrated to me. I'm like, why do I ever need to cut a penny? The hardest thing I'm cutting is probably meat, So if you could sell those knives, you could sell anything.
I was just sus on the if it was a real penny or not. And I remember I got the same demo.
There you go. So talk us through now. Cold call, you get a little bit of success.
Yeah.
Social media, you have a huge, we'll talk about your present day, but you have a huge, you're 26 years old, you have a huge following.
Yeah.
Day one, like, oh, I need to do this. What did you do? So
it was actually, I was kind of a buildup. I will say I've always been like an attention whore. So it kind of was a calling to me. So it came very painless. I was always posting, but I didn't quite learn how to do it with purpose until I would say about 2 years ago. Because until then, I was constantly cold calling and then stopped cold calling. So my business was like a roller coaster. But when I started, so on the business side, everything I do is based on organic, right? I don't really pay for leads. I don't advertise anything. All of my following came very naturally. And what I did was I started sharing my hobbies with people, right? Because I figured, you know what, real estate is cool and all, but after you're done buying a house, you don't really care that much. That's the reality. So I shared, if I'm into watches, cars, sports, basketball, Muay Thai, all my hobbies, I share on my Instagram. And that's what allowed me to build a much better connection with my following, which is what resulted in my business growing exponentially from year 4 to year 5.
All right, but talk us through like a specific example here, right? Like someone says like, oh, this guy was at the Bulls game. Like, I think a lot of our listeners say that sounds great, but like, let's dive in a little bit more.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. I'm into basketball, right? So every morning, every Thursday at 6 a.m., I play basketball and I make sure I put it on my Instagram stories. Sometimes I'll make a post just about me playing basketball. And I always ask a question, something engaging, to let people know I'm here, right? And they need to reply to me. And a lot of times I will set up 1v1 games with complete strangers that are just following me, and we go play basketball like that. Same with Muay Thai or car meets, right? If I'm going to a car meet, I might get there. I make sure I share it on my story. So like people actually know here I am. And then my DMs just go with all the car guys of what they like, what cars they like, what cars they hate. I might point to a Corvette and say, you know what? It's red, but it would look much better in black, right? And then all the comments arguing against it. So that's if you're growing on Instagram. TikTok is really where things are happening for me, is where most of my following came in from. And the exact specifics you can do on TikTok, if we can get into the actual trending stuff, is pick first you have to be going through it enough to know exactly like what's trending. Once you recognize what's trending, the algorithm's already going to boost if you can kind of tap in to what's happening with that trend, right? So you recognize a sound, and then in my head, I'm always thinking, how can I take this sound, apply it to real estate or whatever, and then make it educational and entertaining to get that engagement I need to get that following. And that's where majority of my stuff came from, is actually TikTok, because growing on there is significantly easier going organic. Does that make sense? I feel like I kind of did 3 circles there for you.
No, it makes sense. Mark, jump in. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's impressive, but it sounds so simple.
It really is, man. It really is. It's not rocket science for me. I just make sure it's the captions. If I have to be anything specific, it's not posting boring stuff and boring captions. And that is all it is. To me, like, I can only give you real estate examples because I don't know what people do in other fields, right? So a lot of realtors will have like, just listed, right? It's just a house, a brand new house posted, just listed, just sold, come to my open house, yada, 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 right? But that's kind of boring. And you'll see their engagement isn't as good. But once you start posting like a story, you start like having an emotional connection with the person through your caption and sharing a story, that's really where where it gets a lot better for you.
Awesome. No, it makes sense. Because I think we're in the world right now of just noise. It's too easy to scroll down, scroll left, go to a different app. And what you're able to do is to kind of pull people in. I mean, telling stories is like becoming one of the 101 of marketing, story brand. But so you got this great content. I mean, I got your YouTube page pulled up right now. You have 11,000 subscribers. Like that's impressive. Like,
just hit it today too.
How is that? How are you translating that to your business, and how are you translating that to actual deals you're getting done, and how are you going to kind of use this in the investment side of things?
Yeah. To be honest, I made a mistake with that YouTube channel because, as you see, the content I'm making is mostly for real estate agents, right? And the reality is real estate agents don't need real estate agents. They need clients. And I don't need a following full of real estate agents. So that was a mistake. But you know what? I enjoy making the content, so I'm going to keep doing it. Biggest lesson I learned is the content you make is the audience you will attract, right? So on YouTube, I'm getting a lot of real estate agents, which doesn't necessarily get me business. I've gotten a couple of deals from it from people who haven't gotten their license yet, but they have property to sell. But it's not really consistent business, right? I've just got a huge real estate following. I get referrals across the nation, which is helpful, but it's not really something I can rely on. What that is really good for is just building my presence, my brand in my own industry, like my authority. So when I need to make like a move, for example, I just started a team, right? Generally, recruiting is like the hardest part in real estate, is finding quality agents that want to join me, right? And pitching them and da-da-da. But for me, because I have that YouTube channel, all I had to do was make one vlog mentioning I'm starting a team. I have 15 interviews, and I was able to pick like the cream of the crop. People were willing to work hard, and they're very like-minded because that's the content I make, right? So on YouTube, I'm actually shifting. I have another channel where I make local content that's very specific. It won't get as many views, but it will lead to a lot more business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that local content. Like, how deep do you dive on these videos, right? Because you want to appeal to as many people as possible, but you also want to provide the most value possible. So talk about like that tightrope walk that you got to do.
It's also very hard as an agent because I have certain guidelines. Like, I made a video about the 5 worst neighborhoods in Chicago. I had to take it down very quickly because I got a call. I got IDFPR on my phone saying, "You want to lose your license or what, buddy?" I was like, "Uh-oh." So I had to take that down. So I'm very cautious. I try not to get too, like, for example, I made one going over the Chicago suburbs and just explain the different regions, right? You got the North Shore, Northwest, Western, Southwest, and South, right? Just describing these are the regions. And this is where you can expect, like the North Shore, if you want to spend some money, that's where you go. If you want reasonable housing, we're at 300, 400K, the Northwest suburbs, Western suburbs, and that was just very basic level, right? And then in future videos, I isolate and then I dive deep. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So next one I'm going to make is going to be the top 10 suburbs in Chicago, in top 10 Chicago suburbs. And again, content I make is the audience I attract. So I want clients looking in the suburbs, right? So I'm going to be focusing on the top 10 best suburbs, and I'm going to go over them in regards to criteria. And then the next 10 videos are already made because now I'm going to break down each and every city in a more like detailed average price point, days on market, what homes, what school districts, ratings, all the specifics.
So you're covering a lot of ground here, right? Because there's an infinite amount of suburbs surrounding the city. How did you get familiar with that? You came here when you've been in this country for 16 years total, right?
Yeah.
You've been an adult for half of that. Like how did you learn? Did you drive up and down? Like, how do you know Aurora, Schaumburg, and Barrington?
Thankfully, 2 ways. Uber, because when I had no money, I had to drive people everywhere, man. And then the second way, just being a real estate agent, I've shown houses in so many places. And when I started, I had to work with a lot of rentals. And I went anywhere from Aurora, Batavia, as north as like Gurnee, Mundelein, and basically the southest I've ever gotten was Frankfurt. I think not. Was it Frankfurt? Starts with an H.
Homer Glen?
That's the one. That's as south as I got. So I don't really do much over there, but I know most of the rest of the suburbs. And it's just through driving and showing. And I learned the city mostly going through broker tours and just being in the area all the time and just pick it up. And I've been doing it a lot. You're talking about 10, 15 showings a week, all in different cities. You catch up quick.
What always amazes me about marketing or what you're doing is you're willing to, and you get up on here on this platform where thousands of people listen, and you can do that because no one's going to listen to you. Everyone will listen to you, but no one will go and execute. I know I do it all the time with the property management side of things with our marketing there. I tell other property managers, all you got to do is this, and this, and they don't do it. So what is it about, for the person, call it introvert, the person that's shy or doesn't like their voice or whatever? Yeah. What is it that some people are born with it, some are not, but for those people that are not, like, what does it take for them to get out, put themselves out there the way you do? Because you put yourself out there, like you extend like far reaching out there in an awesome way.
So you guys see everything like today, but if you ever have time to look at some of the older videos, they're absolutely disgusting. I can't watch them, but I won't delete them out of principle because I want people to see the growth. But even when you see that very first video, what you didn't see was the 100 that I didn't have the confidence to post. Like I would make a video a week, I would edit it, and I just didn't have the courage to post it, right? But those 100 videos were reps for me. So it's like basically I was just working out that skill. And then when I finally was able to post one, then I was like, okay, I'll post another one. The best thing is no one's really watching you in the beginning when you suck. Thank God. And as I got better and like more people started watching, I was a little bit decent on camera. So I was like, whoo. So one way an introverted person could do it is, number one, just record, edit, delete, right? And it sounds easy. It sounds kind of a waste of time, but it's actual practice in front of a camera. Video is what you want to do. I told my team members, like, we have to pick a method of communication that comes naturally to you when you're choosing your lead gen, right? So for me, camera talking comes naturally to me, but I hate in-person stuff, right? I can't give speeches. I get petrified, but I could be on camera on a live of like 40 people, no problem. Put 9 people in a room, I can't talk, right? So I figured out my communication style. Some people are incredible writers, right? So in that case, I say you need to focus your efforts on LinkedIn and Facebook, where like the written word is a little bit more important, right? Where the image and the video doesn't matter as much. But if you're on TikTok and Instagram, it does, right? So if you're introverted, start with what comes to you the most naturally, and then slowly work your way into the other methods.
And I think I was excited for my own selfish reasons to talk marketing on this show, but I think a lot of our listeners need more of what you do for their own success. Yeah. I think whether it be wholesalers or these guys trying to attract investors from the East Coast, or acquisitions teams trying to get out there to find deals, or different portfolios trying to buy, like there's a lot of what you bring in right now, the area of brokerage that everyone else in this area can use, and there's no one doing it. So that's why I was excited to have you out here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to share, man. I'm excited to be here as well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Fortunately, not too many people are doing it, so it's easier to grow.
Yeah. So you still got to deliver, right? You get this big attraction. People are saying, you know what, we're going to use you. You're going to use your team members, whatever the case may be. You still got to deliver the goods then. So talk about that, right? Because it's more than just putting out content and then, yep, we're going to use you on the buy side. Being on the buy side right now is pretty damn tough. It's competitive. So talk through how we execute.
That's a great point. So one thing I do on the social media front, it's a healthy balance of education and entertainment, right? So there's a lot of funny content. There's also a lot of like, I'm just talking real estate and explaining everything I know. And once they meet with me, number one, I'm the same person you see me on camera that you see me in person, and I actually have a certain system in place for when I meet with people. Like you see this board right here, it says buyer consultation. Like a lot of realtors, when they get a buyer, they get super excited. I just want to show them houses, right? Get them pre-approved and show them houses. In that sense, I don't think you're an asset to your client if you're just opening doors for them, right? So what I like to do is if anyone reaches out to me about wanting to buy something, I don't even get them pre-approved. I say, let's come into my office. Let me explain how the process works for you. So you have all the questions you have, all the concerns, all the dark holes in your head, all of them addressed at the same time with the expenses behind it, all the down payment options, you know, what areas you need to look in, your specific criteria, and doing those like meetings before is significantly different than just randomly going out there, basically running and gunning, right? So the difference, what makes me easier to execute is just having that little system where I actually meet with the client before we do any type of real estate activity is I like to meet with them in person, whether they're buying or selling or investing, and just figure out what is it that you want to do and what is it going to take. And then from there, that's when we move forward.
The runner and gunner is the norm.
It really is.
I remember even in my early days, like I literally get a call and half hour later, I'd be showing them a house.
So you were a real estate agent too, Mark?
What's that?
Were you a real estate agent as well?
Yeah. That's how I started back in 2003. Yep.
Perfect. So I did the same thing when I started. I didn't do these buyer consultations, right? So the running and gunning thing. And I would find myself constantly getting into problems with the client. The inspection, they're just asking for a million things, right? Or the appraisal, they don't know what's going on. Or their aunt told them that this is how long a closing takes, and then now they're blaming me because it takes longer. All these little things going on, right? And then I found it was actually I was doing a disservice to the client because they had no idea what was going on. And I had no idea. They had no idea. You know what I mean? So now when I pitch to buyer, like a buyer consultation, they actually love it. And when I meet with them, they're like, oh my God, our last agent just showed us a bunch of houses, but I'm so glad you explained what exactly we need to do. Now it's a lot more comfortable for us to buy. So
it's all about setting expectations. I mean, that's basically what you're doing, right?
You hit it right on the nail. That's how I knew you're in the business. That exact set of words is exactly what I was looking for. Yeah. Setting those right expectations, especially now. I have to tell clients, I'm like, look, we're going to lose a few houses before we find you something, right? And at the end of the day, you can write a love letter if you want. You could sell a kidney, but the highest, best offer is going to win, right? You could blame me all day. You can blame the sellers all day, but if someone's coming in at the same price cash, you're going to lose, right? So just setting that expectation as well, because I lost a few people with the competitive market. A few buyers just started blaming me as the agent because I wasn't doing enough to get their offers accepted. Despite 17 calls to the listing agent, everything I could do on my end, but I was still losing it because I hadn't set that expectations like a couple of years ago of what is actually going to happen and what it takes to win an offer. So
I think this is a scenario that happens, good market, bad market, whatnot, but the investor or the buyer that no matter what the price is, they want to come in 30% below. How do you, just for good laughs, I guess, how do you handle those type of buyers, or do you just kick them out your office?
I'm going to be honest. I don't necessarily deal with them as much. Now, I understand as an investor, you have to save money, right? So I'm totally okay with that. But if we're looking, I explained to them, I set those expectations. If something is the first day on the market and you offer them 30% less than they're asking, don't expect a yes. Or what I always tell them, figure out what it's worth, right? And then make your offer based on what it's worth, not their asking price. Because it could be, this happens all the time. It could be worth 150, but they're, falsely advertising it for 125 or something, right? Or like there's somebody that made a mistake with the comps, but now you're lowering what's already below market deal. Does that make sense? So if I sense that they're not serious, they're looking to do something like that, I just say, you know what, I don't know if I can help you, because if I could find the deal like that, I'd take it myself.
So you said you're building a team right now. Like, what does that look like? And what's kind of your mindset in setting that up, and where you're going to take that, I guess?
So when I was coming up, man, I really wish there was somebody who was open and honest with me throughout the process. And I could kind of show, because there was a lot of pitfalls I fell into, because this is my fifth year in the business, and it should not have taken this long to get to where I was, right? It's just because I made so many mistakes, pitfalls that around the way. So I initially wanted an assistant. So I put the feelers out, and everybody reaching out was a real estate agent looking for a mentor, right? And I'm like, damn it. But then I also don't want responsibility for another agent. So basically I spoke to my owner of my brokerage. I said, look, I want to set up a team that is based on basically me mentoring these guys, but not taking everything they make. Right now, as you know, you join a team, you can give up half of your commission, almost guaranteed. So my team members have a much more favorable split. They're actually making money, and they have that daily guidance. I'm mostly there to tell them what to do, and then basically make sure that I hold them accountable. Like they're actually making those posts that are so simple to make that actually generate business. Does that make sense?
Talk to me about team and the marketing side of things. People might look at your marketing and say, geez, I don't got time to do all that. Like, how much are you actually doing? How much you're outsourcing? How much easier is it than it really looks, I guess, or not?
So I edit everything you see. Every caption, every video, every house tour, every vlog, everything is basically me, and every photo as well. And it's a lot easier than cold calling. I tell you that. Like a TikTok takes me 15 minutes to make. A sit down video maybe takes me 30 minutes to make, an hour to edit, and it's done. Right. So, I think a lot of people get nervous about what content to post, and they don't realize the most natural stuff is the easiest to make, and it's the most entertaining. Right. For example, I just basically started filming our training sessions that I'm doing anyway. Right. I'm going to have to train people on how to do buyer consultations anyway. So why not record it and post it so people, number one, see me training others, right? It's kind of like, it shows that you know what you're kind of talking about in a way. And then it's the same information that they're going to hear when they sit down with me. So why not? So there's a lot of opportunities throughout your day that if you just press record, that right there is a post, right? Just people overcomplicate it. Like I know some people who write scripts, for what they need to talk about. I just hit record, I have bullet points, and then I go.
I dig it.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been in the business now for 5-6 years. You've entered the dark world of flipping. So
yes, I have.
Let's talk about this, because one of your videos was talking about how you're over budget and all this fun stuff. So let's have I love this concept because flipping is very capital intensive. There's so many things that can go wrong, and I feel it's one of the hardest parts of real estate to get right. So would love for you to share with our listeners, like, oh yeah, I'll just flip a few houses. Then when I have money, I'll buy an investment. Talk through this flipping experience. Where did you start? What has gone wrong? Give us the oral history here.
Oh, I got some information. This is what I would expect to talk to you guys about, because I think you'll have some funny things to say. So as you know, my goal is always to be an investor, right? So as soon as I had enough saved up, I talked to a few hard money lenders and I started looking at investment properties. It took about 9 months. And then I kind of fell into this position where a family member had like a lot of money and they were willing to invest with me. So I solved the capital problem, which I think I was very lucky with. I think a lot of people may not be that just honestly just won the lottery type of situation. But once I found the property, I wanted to jump in. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it ended up being. And it was a lot more time intensive, which I'm going to be honest, I don't like it. I hate the entire process. I'm at Home Depot picking faucets. I'm over there picking floors, and it's never the same trip. I have to go back for a toilet now. It's annoying, and I don't know what I'm going to sell it for, and it better sell for a certain price because I'm already over budget. Whatever number you saw in that video, I'm a lot higher than I thought because I was also not keeping track of all my expenses. It's horrible. It is horrible. But that's where we're at with it. So.
Well, that's funny. And I think a lot of people listen, or Tommy might agree that there's systems that get put in place and all those different things that you've like, if doing your first one over again, what are some of the major systems that you probably didn't account for or put enough power into?
Oh my God. Number one, I didn't give it enough attention in the beginning. That would be off the top of my head. System wise, Define
attention. Like you didn't do your pre-planning. You didn't run a budget.
No pre-planning. I basically saw the price. I'm like, you know what? If I could spend $35,000 rehabbing it, this would be great. Actually, I put $30,000. So I brought in a contract. I was like, okay, can we do this for $30,000? He said, sure, perfect. I put the offer in. Let's go. Right, we're ready to rock and roll. And then we start doing the walk around, and he's giving me completely different numbers. I'm like, wait a minute. We're up to 40,000, man. We're not ready for 40,000. And what I didn't know is like contractors can't really quote you on finishes. So I wish I had my finishes set before I actually at least I knew how much finishes cost. Like these faucets, a vanity top, the size of the vanity I need, the toilets, the tiles, the type of flooring, the underlayment, all these little things that I didn't even realize I had to buy individually. I thought it was just all in the quote. And then the guy was like, how am I supposed to know what flooring you want, dude? I could get my side done in less than 30K, but I can't control finishes. I was like, So in the future, I'm going to meet with my contractor because he did do a great job. And this is something I would like to do. So in the future, I can predict the expenses a little bit better. I like to have like set numbers for things okay, kitchen costs $2,000 for labor, floors cost this much, a bathroom is this much. So that way, then when I'm pulling, like when I see a flip, I could be like, okay, these are things I need to do. And then I could look at the finishes and I'll have a much better idea of what the expense will look like. That's probably a system I'll definitely incorporate.
That's great. So are you working with multiple trades, or is this one like company that you're dealing with, one contractor, and then like you just have to interface with him?
I got very lucky here. One of my clients and a good friend of mine is actually a contractor. They do like full renovations. So I'm mostly going through him. And then he has some subcontractors that he works with, like painters, cabinet people, and countertop people. But it's mostly him doing all the work. It's the father and son team. And I mean, they've been doing great work. And that's the one thing I didn't mess up. I think I did not go with the cheapest contractor. I went with the one I trusted. And that's given me a lot of peace of mind. So I have not had any like worries or anything like that in regards to like the work not being done or additional delays or not being able to get a hold of people. So that's one thing I'm glad I overpaid on, to be honest, because the work is definitely being done like with quality. So I feel more, at ease, especially when I need to sell it on the back end.
Run down the numbers real fast. You bought it for X, you're putting absolutely X in, and you're gonna hope to sell it this, and you're hoping to break even. Whatever, give us a quick.
Yeah. So I bought it for $225 cash. So the closing costs weren't really that much, maybe like $2,000. I was gonna put 30 into it, but right now we're gonna put about 48,000. Again, I'm unorganized, so I need to still go back and actually track every expense. But right now it's looking like 48,000.
We're gonna have to post those final numbers.
Oh God, absolutely! I cannot wait. I initially thought I could, 315 was my initial like ARV, but after the amount of money I spent in it, I was like, it has to be 325. So that's what I'm hoping to sell it for. I ran the comps. I'm joking around mostly, but I ran the comps and I know I could get 325 easily based on the competition in the area. Like basically decently updated homes are going for 315. And this is, and I went with the more expensive finishes. So I think I can get 325. So profit wise, after I pay off the expenses, I'm looking at like 32,000, I believe, which isn't much, but I think it's still great just for the experience I've gained and, all in all, getting it up and done in 3 months.
Oh, that's great. I mean, anyone that makes any money on their first flip, like you got more of an education right now than you could watch a million hours of videos, or you probably did.
And I took courses on investing and I'm like, why didn't they tell me about the underlayment? I didn't know you need this stuff. It's just so many things like waterproof laminate versus water resistant laminate. Did you know there's a difference? And one's a lot more expensive and it's a lot, but it's a lot I've learned. I'm not going to lie. It's a completely different experience. And I cannot wait to be done with flipping entirely and, and do more like rentals,
But think about this, how much you, for your clients, like you learned so much for them as well too. So I think when it comes to being a broker, when you know all that stuff, there's very few, I would say about 10% of brokers can actually do what you've learned there.
To be honest, that was a huge insecurity I had, representing investors. I want to make sure that they're, I'm not giving them wrong numbers. Like if it's a property that needs a certain amount of work, like it actually makes sense. Right. So it's a big deal I had in my head. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to replace things, how much a kitchen costs. Like I had ideas, but I wasn't 100% sure. So now when I'm showing properties and I see like a bathroom just needs a new vanity and maybe just like a luxury vinyl plank flooring right over the tile, right? So I'm like, okay, the vanity, I know what a 24-inch costs me. So that cost me like $300 at Lowe's, or this is a 48, that cost me about $600 at Lowe's, right? So having those like little numbers in my head, because it's my money. So I remember every single dollar. And it's helped me a ton. So if we see a property that like it fits the budget, like everything they're looking for, and it just needs new floors, my contractor told me it was $3 a square foot. So I'm like, it's 1,100 square feet. Do the math. I'm like, all right, for $5,000 or something with materials, you can have brand new floors. You can be happy ever after. And that's been very helpful just on both investors and like regular people looking for homes. Because oftentimes it's not as expensive to fix like those little things that'll make the property look really good.
You give them the rundown on underlayment. I love that. All right, cool. Hey, I'm ready to wrap time unless you got something else you want to finish on.
Let's do it.
All right. We kind of asked this question already, but we'll do it again. What's your competitive advantage? Like your experience you've done so far, you're like where you're at today. What's your competitive advantage over other people?
I think because I'm like investor focused, even with my clients who are not investors, I really help them find a really good asset that if the market is going up, that your property appreciates faster because, it's in that good location. It's got a good layout. It's got a solid build. right? So I'm really, really keen on finding those properties and having my clients go towards those. And instead of buying a property that in about 2 years is going to need a new roof, or like, it's got weird siding, or just a bad location or bad setup, everything like that. So because I'm investor focused, I can really help that first time investor not make a mistake with that first home that they're going to buy with the 3% down or 5% down. That way they're kind of putting themselves in a good position. I
love that. That's so true. That doesn't get talked about a lot, because when you don't have everything we just talked about, when you don't have a broker that has that type of insight into the process, they don't look at that ARV down the road. They don't even know what the word ARV stands for.
Do you want me to write an offer?
Yeah. So
it breaks my heart every time I see somebody putting an offer on a condo that doesn't allow rentals. I'm like, guys, why? Why would we do this? What if you lose your job one day, got to move in with mom, and you can't sell because we're in a down market? What are you going to do?
Yeah. I love that. That's great. That's great.
Aram, what is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in the Chicagoland area?
Yet to buy the first property. I would say it's not as scary as you think. As long as you have the money set aside, the rest of the process will just fall in place, because the hardest part is finding the deal. So if you got the money for it and you got the deal, everything else falls in place. So just get your money right and then just start looking for a proper deal.
All right. What do you do for fun?
Oh, I got so many things, man. I love sports, basketball, Muay Thai. I love cigars. If you guys smoke cigars, you want to meet up, I'm a member at a local one in the Byron Cigar Lounge. If you want to stop by, I'll treat you to one. Love cars and watches. I'm trying to buy a watch, but as you know, houses are not the only thing with low inventory. I can't get my hands on anything without paying $3,000 more than the MSRP, and I'll be damned before that happens.
It's all about timing. No, I'm joking.
There's our teaser.
That was good.
What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners?
My favorite business book ever is the Blue Ocean Strategy. If you have time, that book right there is kind of what pushed me towards TikTok, because I was like, wait a minute, there's really no one when I started on TikTok, there isn't really that many business focused TikToks, just 2.5 years ago. And that allowed me to build up a following very quickly, because I was the only one talking about real estate. And yeah, so if you can identify that, that's an amazing book. And then I think we've all read this one, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a gem. Thank God I found that book.
Blue Ocean is a good book. The whole focus is on going where other people won't go. I mean, for our property management, I read it because our industry, 65% of investors manage their own stuff, and that's our Blue Ocean in property management. So it was a good book. I read it last year.
Where are you uncontested, right? Isn't that like the general?
Yeah.
I don't know why someone want to manage their own properties, guys. I just try to help one landlord with a tenant, like rent out a unit. It was exhausting. I had like 300 inquiries. I lost so many emails of actual deals because I had 150 I didn't read. So please hire a property manager, for the love of God. It is not fun.
I did not place that in here, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
Can I recommend two?
Sure.
Okay. My contractor, I really like him a lot. He's got a good heart and I can trust him. Sierra Renovations. And then the second one is my attorney. His name is 𝗬𝘃𝗏. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The dude's expensive, drives me crazy, but I think the quality and the care he goes for is definitely worth it. He does all my deals, and I definitely recommend them to all my clients.
Things are not expensive if you get the value for it.
100%. It's only $300 more, but I can't tell you how many deals he saved. So
these are 6 and 700 figure. These are 6 and 7 figure deals.
Yeah,
right. Like a couple $100 to get it right is not. It's not a big investment.
We've all heard people like skip the home inspection or want to not use an attorney. Like it's crazy. Like the mindset of that.
It drives me crazy. Like because he said, it's like you're buying a $300,000 house. And you're worried about like paying $200 more on your attorney. Because I tell everybody this, if your attorney charges $350 for a real estate transaction, don't work with them. I promise you something will go wrong. And then now I have to get involved. I've gotten to so many situations with like a bad attorney. This guy wouldn't schedule showings because he was busy for a week. I lost my mind.
Every attorney and every agent who has gone through that is just nodding their head right now.
Yep.
All right. So Aram, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Just show some love on the content and ask me any questions you have. Instagram is AramG Realty. TikTok is AramG Realty. If you want to laugh, go there. If you want to learn about the real estate business as an agent, go to my YouTube, just my first and last name, Aram Ghazaryan. And that's it. Yeah. Any questions, shoot the DMs. I'll be happy to answer them.
Nice. Mark, today's Chicago fact comes from listener Lyle Hernandez. So I sent a feeler out there on our Facebook group, and I got a couple of responses. This is the first one where the first one coming from the audience.
All right, cool.
All right. And this is going to be pure guessing on your end. So you got a 25% chance, I believe.
Okay.
So the 𝗫𝗏𝗏 Monument is the most ancient outdoor monument in Chicago. It was created in 117 BC and then installed in this Chicago park back in 1934. And is that park Columbus, Burnham, Garfield, or Jackson?
25% chance you get it right.
1934. I'll say Jackson Park.
Does our guest want to go with an answer?
Can you give me the options one more time, please?
Columbus, Burnham, Garfield, Jackson.
Okay. Since he said Jackson, I'm going with option A. And this is
Columbus. It was Burnham.
Oh, really?
Was it
Burnham that put it there?
So Burnham connects Grand Park at 14th Street all the way to Jackson Park on 56. I didn't realize how massive it was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then Burnham was one of the designers of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. Also didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. So did you know that he like did all his city testing of how a city's built in the Philippines? Like when we occupied the United States, occupied Philippines, he did a whole bunch of like test cities over there because they could do whatever they wanted for the government. So, but what book was that? I don't know if it was the White City one that they talked about that, but it was he comes up in a lot in the Chicago book, so he's always interesting.
See, you know way more than me. That's why I asked the question. Because listeners don't want to see me get it wrong every week.
Well, I'm about 50%. I think somebody told me the other day, like, I get it about half the time. I'm like, well, thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
I mean, you're successful half the time. It's good enough.
Yeah, that's Hall of Fame if you're a baseball player.
And then Michael Jordan shooting percentage. I'm just throwing it out there.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Awesome show, Tom. Thanks as always. Listeners, please, we need to catch up to Aram's subscribers on YouTube. He's got about 11,000, so we need all you guys to get about 1,000 friends. No, 100 friends and subscribe with them all this week. So we got to catch up there so we can show them. Please leave us a review on Apple. Sorry, I drew a blank there. On iTunes, and then sign up for our YouTube page. We will see you guys next week. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Thank you.